Hi, in this example, let's take a look at how some of our textures were created in the panda scene. So I have the file where the panda is in the ocean. So if I just scrub right now, you can see this really nice fishes over here. So let's say if I select one of the fish over here, you can see it's got some animation, but we are right now just going to talk about our textures. So if I select this one, and if I go to Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade, and if I click on this button over here right now, and right now what I have is my layout is just showing just the bottom work area. So I've clicked on this button. So normally it's on this button, so you can see the materials and textures area and the work area. So just to get more space, I just have this one highlighted so that we can get more screen real estate. So at this time, I'm just going to click on this button, which is Graph Materials on Selected Objects, because I have the fish object selected over there. And you can see that this is the material right now on the fish. So if I double click on this, the PSD file texture, you can see it's coming from the source images ocean_good fish.psd. That's the file. So it's the Photoshop document. It's a PSD file. So that's a great thing in Maya. It allows you to directly connect PSD documents inside your Hypershade. So let's take a look at that. So I can quickly open Photoshop over here and I'll go to the fish. And this is the texture that's being used. Although you saw that in Maya, everything over here was transparent. So what's going on is really, if you go to Photoshop and if you go to channels, there's an alpha channel that's being used over here. And that's plugged directly as a PSD node into our material. So what happens, the concept of alpha is, you can see right over here, the main body of the fish is white and everything around it is going to be black. So that's going to be transparent. So basically this is going to be ignored and this is what's going to be displayed. So if I just show you that one more time, what happens in Maya is when you plug in the fish texture like such, if I double click on the material right there, it's a Lambert that's being used. You can see it's going into the color channel and it's also going into the transparency channel. So if I click on the transparency, let's click on color first. You can see it's fish.psd. And if I go back, and if I click on this button right now, you can see again it's fish.psd. So I'm in my transparency channel right now, and over here, the alpha to use is alpha 1. So right now if I say default, and if I just move this to the side, you can see that the fish is not transparent anymore. That part over there. You can see that the pink texture, the pink color is displaying. So let's get the attribute editor back and let's watch over here. If I go to alpha to use, you can see that it disappears or it's kind of transparent. So that's the concept of alpha, and that's what's being used in most of this example in this file, except for the panda texture itself, which makes it really easy for rendering because these are just planes which are being mapped with simple alpha textures. And those are really, really easy to calculate because textures are going to render much faster than the actual object itself, and planes are definitely going to render much, much faster. So they are simple textures on simple planes. That's why the scene can render really faster. It's a very smart way of doing it. Let's look at another one over here. So there's these fishes over here, and these were pretty much using this object over here again. And you can see again there's an alpha, and that was again, if I go back to my Hypershade, and if I graph materials on that one right now, you can double click on that and you can see that again it's got a color and transparency, and in the transparency you can see that alpha to use is transparency in this case because it's slightly different texture, but that's the same concept. You can see everything around it's transparent. If I go back and if I say default, you can see that it's not transparent anymore. Then let's take a look at some other ones over here. So let's scrub a little bit and let's take a look at this one, this bottom piece. And if I go to Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade again, and if I say Graph Materials on Selected Objects, you can see this is again a PSD file texture, and if I double click on that one, you can see this one's again using the alpha as a transparency. And again, it's into the color and the transparency channel. So it's a great way of doing your textures. And if I go back to my texture over here, you can see this is the one. And again, if I go over here, this one's a simple vector object, so it's got transparency right over here. So Maya, when you plug this texture in, it immediately recognizes the texture having transparency. And same as with this center piece over here, that's using that drill texture, which is pretty much this one over here. Again, this is a vector smart object. So right over here, Maya knows that it's got transparency within it. So really a cool way, and we'll see some other examples for a different file, because the Panda has a lot of different files. This is the ocean file. In the next example, I'll open the jungle file where the Panda is within the buildings and the forest and everything. So let's take a look at the textures over there.